Chapter 46. Goodbye, Malik. Malik. By the look on Vanessa's face, she was just as terrified as he was. He wasn't sure what would happen now that Riley pulled her damn trigger on Alec. Both of them came walking elegantly, yet intimidatingly into the ballroom. Clearly your hunter friend doesn't know any better. Alec smirked. Malik lifted a one-shoulder shrug. She just wanted you to stop beating the shit out of me. Well, now you're all dead tonight. Alfred growled as he went to lunge at Malik. And this time Vanessa was standing in front of him. It did stop Alfred, but not for the same reasons that stopped Malik from taking Byron's life. No. Vanessa shouted, holding up Katrina's gun. Only Malik dies tonight. Alfred backed away with a smirk on his face. Oh really? You're finally going to do it? Vanessa turned and aimed the gun at Malik. I'll do it. Right here, right now. Alec and Alfred laughed in unison. Well, this could be entertaining, and finally you understand the importance of your cooperation. Alfred mused, however, I don't think I want you to do it anymore. If I'm going to see Malik Cromwell fall, it's going to be by my Katrina's hands. Now that we know she is alive, if you really mean to see Malik die, you'll hand that gun back to its rightful owner and allow her to do the job. Malik confidently pulled out his phone from his pocket, and shook his head when he saw that it was shattered in the brawl just minutes before. Aaron took off with her. I don't know where they went. He shrugged. I'll go find them. Vanessa spoke up. She looked at Alec and Alfred. I need your word. I need you to swear to me that after Malik is dead, you will leave Byron and I alone. I don't ever want to hear from or see you again. The Balthazar twins had an indifferent expression but nodded in agreement. You, Vanessa Owens, have our word that you will never see us again after Malik Cromwell is dead. You may go on and live your lives as normally as you like. Alfred said. Alec nodded in agreement. Also, before I fetch them, I want a moment alone with Malik. Vanessa said. Malik looked at her with surprise in his eyes. So many demands, but I suppose we'll let you have this too. Alec and Alfred disappeared, leaving Slight Miss behind. Vanessa turned to Malik, her eyes had tears in them. She looked defeated and at a loss. In her mind they were beaten. This was it. Alec and Alfred had won. Malik, there's something I need to tell you. Her voice trembled. Malik shook his head. No, he wouldn't hear it right now. Now was not the time for the love of his life to look at him with such broken and defeated eyes and say what she needed to say. He placed a finger against Vanessa's lips. Don't do this. Don't say anything that might make this harder than it has to be. She pushed Malik's hand away. No, I am going to say this because it's the last time I'm ever going to see you. She cried. Malik looked at her and tears were coming from his own eyes. Don't worry, Vanessa. You're going to be okay. We already know how we feel about each other and... So let me say it. She squealed. I won't let you die without knowing what you mean to me. Malik wiped the tears from his eyes and sniffled. I wish things were different. I wish we could have just said it to each other sooner. Then maybe I could hold you one last time as my little white rose. Have one more night with her. He mused as he reached up and brushed her cheek. I want to say it now, so please stop cutting me off and let me say it. She cried. Malik, Malik cut her off with a kiss. Tender, sweet, and expressing his feelings for her. To let her know what joy she brought into his life. He couldn't bear to hear the words right now. Not in this moment. Not in this place or the people around them. She returned the kiss, her cheeks were wet with her tears. He wished he could read her thoughts. That way he could hear the words inside there and not from her mouth. They seemed to lose one another in the kiss, and for a moment, it felt as though they were the only two in the world. And it was perfect. Time's up, Alec announced as they entered the ballroom and Vanessa and Malik jumped apart. We even did a little favor for you, Vanessa. He mused as Alec walked with Katrina arm in arm. Katrina walked gracefully up to Vanessa and held her hand out. I'll be taking back my gun now. Vanessa slapped it roughly into her hand. Thank you, Vanessa. She smirked and pointed her gun at Malik. Any last words? Vanessa turned to see Byron and Riley coming into the ballroom. Aaron had obviously allowed him to feed because though Byron appeared rough and weak, he was looking like himself again. Malik saw them come in and he looked at Katrina. Aim for the heart, he said. Alec and Alfred stood proudly behind Katrina, as she was getting ready to take down the last heir of the Cromwell bloodline. So this is how the great king of New York, Malik Cromwell, meets his end. In a ballroom with Alec and Alfred getting what they've wanted for centuries, Julius dead, Aaron there to witness Malik's, Byron Owens, and his white rose. Katrina pointed the gun at his heart, her eyes fixated on the target as she pulled back the safety. Goodbye, Malik. she said, then turned swiftly on her heels and fired not just one but 2 shots. One hit Alfred and the other hit Al. Chapter 47. A twist. Vanessa. Vanessa looked at Katrina as she raised her gun up to Malik. She closed her eyes as she would not watch him die. But the gunshots. There was 2? She opened her eyes to see 2 bodies splattered all over the floor. Malik stood there all in one piece, his eyes on her, smiling at her. He held his arms out to her and she rushed into them, squeezing him tightly. He was alive. Byron was alive and getting his mind back. Alec and Alfred were no more than a red splattered mess on the ground. Was it over? Was it really all over? She sobbed with relief into his chest. Malik's embrace had never felt better. The way he smelled made her soul swell up with joy. My Malik, she thought to herself. She felt his shoulders shaking. Was he really laughing at a time like this? She pulled back and slapped him across the face. You a holy! You knew you were going to survive, didn't you? Malik's face jerked from the slap and he looked at her. You knew it too. At least when you look back, you'll know that you knew I'd live. I already know that it's just... Vanessa gripped his shirt as she cried. I really thought... She turned to Katrina, who stood in front of the splattered bodies. Why did you? Katrina turned to look at her with a smile. It's been my and Malik's plan all along. Everyone looked at one another in confusion. I thought Malik killed you, Vanessa said. It's what we wanted Alec and Alfred to think. In order for it to look legitimate, the secret was only kept between Malik and myself. Vanessa looked up at Malik, who still had his arms around her, and her hands rested on his chest. How did you keep that a secret when they could get into your head? Malik shrugged. It was easy. All I had to do was picture the lie we orchestrated any time they went to get into my head. Riley and Byron stepped forward. This was a twist, Riley mused. Vanessa pulled away from Malik and jumped into her brother's arms. Thank God you're okay. I'm sorry I took you. I wasn't in my... Byron rambled, but Vanessa cut him off. You weren't you and it's okay. I'm not mad about anything you did while you were in that state. I do owe you an apology for telling you that you were stupid for what you did. You're an Owens and we protect each other. I had no business being mad at you. You saved us both and Malik. Vanessa shook her head. No, I didn't. Katrina saved Malik. You changed him. Vanessa turned red and looked over at Katrina. I want an explanation. Now. Katrina nodded. The Owens and Cromwells made an alliance back in the day. It is true that Alec, Alfred, and I created the Hunter bloodline. I did love Alfred. It killed me to end him just now. We were all getting along until the Cromwells came from the African lands. Alec and Alfred slaughtered them and framed me for it. I refused to go along with their lies when Malik came to England. As a result, my family was slaughtered. Alfred claimed I helped them do it. Malik and I had mutual interest in killing the Balthazars. Alec and Alfred killed their family so they would be the only ones left. We took advantage of Alfred's feelings for me, and we faked my death. The serum that was created could kill a vampire but put a hunter to sleep. So he injected it into my heart. He said he would wake me when he found a way. But, you two acted like you hated each other so much. Riley said. They had to sell it. Aaron chimed in. Vanessa looked between Katrina and Malik. So, did you two plan on Byron and me coming into the picture? Was this all some sort of master plan developed over the centuries? Malik shook his head. When I heard that Daniel and Miranda Owens were killed, I thought that might have been our last chance. I truly did forget that name as I had to focus on a new way to kill off the Balthazar twins. You and Byron were a surprise. But when Alfred woke Vanessa, I saw my chance. Vanessa shook her head. So what you're saying is, waking the hunter in me worked to your advantage? Were you using me, Malik? What about the night Byron saved me from that rabid vampire? Was that just a setup to get me close to you because you knew I wasn't going to let him die? Malik shook his head and held his hand up. No, you have to know that. I've heard enough, Vanessa said as she stormed out. She ran out into the woods as far as her legs and lungs would permit her. She couldn't believe what she just heard. She felt so used and betrayed. Everything she'd ever thought the past couple months was nothing like she thought it was. It should be a good thing. But right now it wasn't. She leaned against a tree and sobbed into her hands. If she thought her world had been tipped upside down and shaken before, it certainly felt worse now. She felt a hand touch her and she jerked away. No. Malik's voice pleaded. Please let me explain. Vanessa looked up at him. I don't want to hear anymore. Everything I ever thought since coming here is just twisted and I feel used and like none of this was real. You want the truth? I would love that if we could pick one. I'll bear it all to you. Right here, right now. Just please listen to me. I really do love you, Vanessa. Vanessa looked at him. Permission was granted through the expression on her face. When Byron came to New York and told me who he was, I turned him and made him one of my men to protect him. I never wanted to execute him, but I knew you would find us and stop it. It's exactly what you did. I wanted to turn you too, but then you and I started falling in love and I just wanted to do things the right way. But then Alfred got to you. I was sloppy and careless. I let them feed on you and that was wrong of me. You have to know that I really didn't expect either of you to come along. An opportunity just happened after you woke up. And when your body rejected Alec's venom, I took that so that we could use his venom against him and Alfred, and it worked. You truly did your part if that's what you want to know. By what? Donating vomit? Vanessa chuckled wryly. Malik shook his head. We got his venom because your body rejected it. I know why my body rejected it. Vanessa said. Why? She looked at him. I'm pregnant. Chapter 48. Say it all. Malik. Malik had a strange feeling she was pregnant. Though Alec's intentions behind biting her aren't confirmed, he figured Alec knew and tried to kill the baby. Malik heard the heartbeat the night she threw up Alec's venom. He wasn't sure she knew, but she did. He could only assume that Aaron heard the heartbeat too. Malik looked at her with tenderness in his eyes. He reached out and placed a hand on her belly. The heartbeat was strong, and her stomach was stiff as though something alive really was in there. How does that make you feel? He asked. How does what make me feel? Vanessa asked as she placed her hand over his. Carrying my child. Malik chuckled softly at how obvious the answer should have been. What are you thinking, V? There was a time he could read her thoughts and it was amusing and intriguing. Then one day he couldn't, and it frustrated him to no end. But after all this he was glad he couldn't read her thoughts. It would force her to speak her mind, which she did anyway, but now he got to hear what she was thinking from the raw beauty of her voice. Vanessa looked at him, his eyes truly searching for the answer he could no longer see in her mind. I want to give you the words first. Malik knew what she meant. In the Balthazar manner, she wanted to speak from her heart and Malik wouldn't let her. He knew he was going to live, but he wasn't going to let the most perfect moment of his immortal existence be in that place of filth and deceit. If she was going to tell him she loved him and if he was going to hear it from her, it was not going to be before one thought the other was going to die. She would have to tell him when she had a choice to have forever with him. It would be a time where they knew they would say it to each other until the end of time. He looked at her and flashed that famous grin of his. Say it, Vanessa. Say it all. Vanessa took each of his hands in hers and looked deep into his eyes as though to ensure everything she had to say would go through the window to his soul and stay there forever. I came to this city expecting to spend time with my brother who ghosted me for some god-awful reason. When my parents died and Byron left me, I wouldn't let anyone in. I met Riley and became friends with her, and she became my rock. But anyone and anything else, I built up these walls. I refused to let myself really care about others because the most important people in my life were just gone. Hot tears began to stream down her cheeks, and Malik released one of her hands to gently wipe them away. I never wanted to hurt like that again. Then I met you and you were so beautiful and confident. But when my brother saved me, you were ready to execute him. And all that should have gone away. I should have hated you, but I didn't. I guess when I went to stop you from killing Byron, I wasn't just trying to save Byron. I didn't want you to do something I would have to hate you for. I couldn't let you take what I already felt for you away from me. I refused to lose anyone else. So I stopped you. Hot tears threatened to spill from Malik's eyes. Even when he could read her thoughts back then, he did not see this coming. He knew there was an attraction, but because she was not aware of how she felt back then, neither was he. He gently squeezed her hands, urging her to continue. I love you, Malik Cromwell. You make me want to have courage and be the best version of myself as possible. And when I found out I was pregnant, after all is said and done, I'm really happy. I didn't think it would be possible between you and I. I truly didn't think I would want kids because I was so afraid of losing them too. You and I loved each other when we did it. So this baby was conceived out of love. That's how it's supposed to be. I want us to have this baby and raise it together. Vanessa said as she took a deep breath. There it is. I said it all. Now it's your turn. Malik chuckled softly and he pulled her into his arms. You know how I feel about you, my little white rose. Your saving Byron that day opened a lot of doors for us. I never thought I would do the whole domestic thing. A woman to come home to and children. I thought it could only be done from one pure blood to another. It's why I stayed away from my own kind. But when I heard our baby's heartbeat, I had something else to protect. I had to keep you out of the fight, Vanessa. I know you must have felt so helpless and in the end you didn't feel like you did much. But please don't let that frustrate you or get you down. Our baby is safe. You are safe. Vanessa was now a blubbering mess of tears and sniffles. Well, when you put it that way, she muttered between sobs. I did do something great after all. Malik curled his finger under her chin and lifted it so their eyes met again. I love you, Vanessa Owens. And then he dipped his head, and their lips came together in perfect unison. Now that their lips no longer had to do the talking, they were able to just feel. Let's go home, Malik murmured against her lips. Before dawn could break, everyone had gone home. Katrina went with Aaron as they had a spark between them, Riley with Byron and Vanessa with Malik. Vanessa walked through the threshold and her jaw dropped seeing white rose petals all over the place. The table at the entrance had a box open with a large round diamond in a rose gold band. She turned to Malik, who had dropped to one knee. Vanessa Owens, will you marry me?
Chapter 49. Ido.
Vanessa 2 months later. I'll do her hair. Riley smiled as Katrina was on makeup duty. After everything settled down, Katrina wanted to have a relationship with Vanessa and Byron, which they easily agreed to. She did save them all that day. It was also a good way to just have family. Vanessa and Malik announced their engagement, and everyone was hot on the wedding planning. For being asleep for centuries, you're really good with makeup, Vanessa told Katrina. Riley taught me, but thank you. I really like this stuff. It looks and tastes better than the 17th century crap, Katrina replied as she applied the contour stick. Riley smirked as she wrapped Vanessa's long hair around the curling iron. I taught you, but you're killing it. She fluffed out some of the hair to give it some volume. How is baby doing? Baby is doing great. Just wish it would show up on the damn sonogram. It still doesn't show up?
No.
Baby is there, it's healthy, but we can't see it. Katrina started blending the makeup. Maybe it doesn't show up because it can shapeshift like its daddy? Vanessa's jaw dropped. How did none of us think of that? It makes so much sense now. Katrina laughed. It is half Malik in there. Vanessa and Riley each pressed a hand to their chest, sighing with relief. It all makes sense now. Riley mused. Think when I give birth it could do that misty fog thing and just come out of me that way? Vanessa asked. Riley and Katrina burst out laughing, then stopped. Oh, maybe, Katrina said. Have you thought of names yet? Riley asked. Vanessa shook her head. Honestly, no, since he proposed it's been all about making this day happen. Done. Katrina smiled after applying the mascara and the lipstick. Looking natural, but features have popped. Nice cat. Riley complimented. And now I'm done, what do you think? She asked as she spun Vanessa in the chair to look at herself. Vanessa smiled as she looked at herself. Her hair was down in bouncy curls and a tiara on her head. The makeup was natural but made her features pop. Now it was time to put on the dress and walk down the aisle. She slipped into her dress with off-shoulder sleeves, and a loose tulle on the skirt so she could spin in it. Her diamond necklace and earrings sparkled against her fair skin. I feel like a princess. She sighed happily. You are a princess becoming a queen. Katrina smiled. Riley was dabbing her eyes. I'm sorry, you just look so beautiful. I can't wait to marry Byron now. Vanessa's eyes lit up. Are you going to marry Byron? Riley looked between them. I didn't want to announce it today because this is your day, V, but Byron and I are engaged. I left the ring at home until we come out with it. Vanessa squealed with joy. This is so exciting. All three fell into a group embrace. She then took her white rose bouquet and met up with Byron, who looked like a stud in his tux. You ready? Byron whispered as he offered his arm. Ready. Vanessa whispered as Katrina and Riley walked ahead with their escorts down the aisle in Malik's backyard. Because this was a vampire wedding, it obviously had to be at night. There were lights strewn about the place, hundreds of guests, and a sparkling fountain behind the altar of white and red roses with white lights intertwined with them. She looked at Malik as he came into vision, standing at the altar. The look on his face was a look every woman deserved from her man at their wedding. As though she was perfect in his eyes. She smiled at him and he burst into tears. It was beautiful to see him this happy while looking at her. He was the most handsome man she'd ever seen in his tux. Aaron was by his side, and he winked at Katrina. Walking down the aisle with Byron was so surreal and amazing. Everything worked out better than she ever imagined it would. Byron kissed her cheek as they reached the altar, and went to stand with Malik. They took one another by the hands, exchanged their vows, and gave one another their first kiss as husband and wife. They celebrated late into the night, and Malik eventually swept her off her feet and carried her to their bedroom. Mrs. Cromwell, how are you feeling tonight? He asked as he began to place hot, wet kisses down her neck. She purred as she leaned her head to the side. Like I'll die if you're not inside me. She moaned. What about you, Mr. Cromwell? Malik let out a low groan into her skin. Like I'll die if I'm not inside you. Being their wedding night, they both wanted to take their time. But the hunger for one another overruled the desire to take it slow. One thing Malik enjoyed was how sensitive she had become to his touch, especially since she got pregnant. All he had to do stroke her in the right places and she would come apart around whatever he had inside her. Whether his tongue, his fingers, or his hard cock, he could get her to unravel on it all within seconds. That night, he had her climaxing around one at a time, and he got to fill her up in more ways than one. They laid next to each other, basking in the afterglow of being married and consummating the marriage. Do you think, after our baby is born, you'll let me inject you? Malik asked as he lazily rubbed her soft, warm belly with his large hand. She turned to look at him. You mean turn me into a vampire? Malik nodded. Being a hunter, you'll live forever anyway, but if you let me turn you, we'll really be one and the same. What if my body rejects the venom again? It was gross, barfing up grimy tar substance. Malik chuckled. Then I'll get you through it. But because it's me, don't you want to at least try? Vanessa nipped her lip in thought. Well, when you put it that way, let's do it. Chapter 50 Epilogue. 1 year later. Malik walked into the nursery where Vanessa had just laid their son, Liam, in his crib. He felt so lucky to be a father and a husband. It was a path he never saw himself taking. Once he put a ring on Vanessa, he did go through with giving the city to the people, and he sold lust. He was no longer Malik Cromwell, king of New York. He was just a husband and a father born as a vampire, and he had never been happier in his life. The birth of their son was rough. Vanessa had complications through the pregnancy, but they made it. Liam made it. After the birth, Malik gave Vanessa some time to heal, and her transition was successful. He guessed their baby didn't want his mommy to turn at the time. He was a smart boy. Malik wrapped his arms around Vanessa as they watched their son sleep. I never thought this would be where I wind up at one day, he whispered. I know. Vanessa smiled. I didn't either. But here we are. Now it's time to put mommy to bed. Malik mused as he playfully tapped her a. She jumped a little and giggled. Why so early? Have I been a bad girl? She smirked devilishly. Malik quietly and quickly pulled her out of the nursery and into their room. After Liam was born, they relocated into a quiet town in France. Technically, Malik had a house everywhere so they could go anywhere they wanted. Aaron and Katrina stayed in the city and she started for a medical degree. After helping Vanessa give birth, they decided they liked helping people and had a goal to open an after-hours clinic for those who didn't need the ER but medical attention all the same. Byron and Riley got married, and though they couldn't have children, they seemed content just being themselves. She continued to hunt, and Byron took up hunting with her. They became this power duo that took down the vampires that tried to do what the Balthazars did. They traveled the world and enjoyed all types of culture and food for her. Blood for Byron. He still needed to feed off a pure blood, but Malik always made sure that Byron would give him blood that would last for months. Once every few months, they would all get together in New York at Malik's old place and catch up with one another. They were spending Christmas together this year. Vanessa and Riley were on indoor decorating. Liam was helping Malik and Byron with lights. Katrina and Aaron were in charge of wrapping presents and baking. I can't believe Liam is already 5. Riley mused. He's so adorable. 5 years, eternity to go. Vanessa chuckled. I still can't believe I'm a vampire. Maybe Malik's venom was what you needed. You were carrying his child. Maybe fetus Liam was like, that's not my dad's. Vanessa laughed. He didn't want anything around him that didn't belong to his dad. Oh, those cookies smell amazing. Riley mused as she took a long whiff of the warm, sugary aroma. Yeah, they do. I can't wait to eat one. Vanessa said as she smelled them too. Riley's brows furrowed. Wait, you're a vampire. Yet you want human food again? Vanessa swallowed hard. Well, yeah, I still crave it now and then. Plus, Liam really enjoys it when I cook for him. And does Malik eat human food too? He's picked up on it. He finds his body functions like a human because he feeds off human blood. Because he was born a vampire, he never really tried it out until one day we were just bored and he tried it. Interesting, Riley smirked. Cookies are ready to decorate, Katrina called from the kitchen. Vanessa whooshed into the kitchen and had a cookie doused in vanilla frosting, taking a large bite. Aaron arched his brows. He'd seen Vanessa like this before. Hey V, might want to slow down. Your cheeks are looking a little puffy. Vanessa stopped and licked her lips. I just still love human food. She waved her hand dismissively. No V, you're looking puffy in the face. Byron confirmed as he walked in. I've never seen anyone frost a cookie that fast. Especially with that much frosting. Katrina chimed in. Okay, fine, you got us everybody. Malik said as he walked in with Liam on his shoulders. Want to do the honors, buddy? He asked as he helped Liam down. Mommy has a baby in her belly. Riley was the first to scream and throw her arms around Vanessa. Are you serious? I didn't know it was possible after you became a vampire. You're essentially dead. We honestly don't know. It just happened. Malik smiled as he wrapped his arm around Vanessa. Maybe because she feeds off me to stay sane. It's essentially my DNA and therefore she's able to conceive my baby. When did you guys find out? Byron asked. We just heard the heartbeat one day. Vanessa shrugged. Do you think this one will have any complications? Malik shook his head. If we were able to put a bun in the oven, I don't see why it won't bake. He shrugged. Good point. Aaron said. Do you need Katrina and I for this? I would feel comfortable if you two looked after me during my pregnancy. We do have this place right here. Malik smiled. They stayed in New York and Aaron bought Lust to transform it into his after-hours clinic. Malik and Vanessa only had Liam, and their daughter Miranda. They wouldn't have it any other way. They all had their ups and downs as they went on their journey of forever. But one thing remained the same. Malik and Vanessa never stopped honoring their promise of forever.